Today we're going to be continuing to read Stuart Little. And let's see, where am I? I think I am chapter 4. Okay, chapter 4. One fine morning in the month of May, when Stuart was 3 years old, he arose early, as was his custom, washed and dressed himself, and took his hat and cane, and went downstairs to the living room to see what was doing. Nobody was around but Snowbell, the white cat belonging to Mrs. Little. Snowbell was another early riser, and this morning he was lying on the rug in the middle of the room, thinking about days when he was just a kitten. "Good morning," said Stuart. "Hello," said Snowbell sharply. "You're up early, aren't you?" Stuart looked at his watch. "Yes," he said. "It's only 5 minutes past 6, but I feel good and I thought I'd come down and get a little exercise." "I think you'd get all the exercise you want up there in the bathroom, banging around, hanging around, waking up the rest of us, trying to get that water started. So you can brush your teeth." Do you remember when he started the water, he had to use his hammer to hit the water, to hit the knob to turn on the water. "Your teeth really aren't big enough to brush anyway. Want to see a good set? Look at mine." Snowbell opened his mouth and showed 2 rows of gleaming white teeth, sharp as needles. "Very nice," said Stuart, "but mine are all right, even though they're small. As for exercise, I take all I can get. I bet my stomach muscles are firmer than yours." "I bet they're not," said the cat. "I bet they are," said Stuart, "like iron bands." "I bet they're not," said the cat. Stuart glanced around to see what he could do to prove to Snowbell what good stomach muscles he had. He spied the drawn window shade on the east window with its shade cord and ring like a trapeze, and it gave him an idea. Climbing the windowsill, he took off his hat and laid down his cane. "You can't do this," he said to the cat, and he ran and jumped onto the ring the way acrobats do in a circus, meaning to pull himself up. A surprising thing happened. Stuart had taken such a hard jump that it had started the shade, and with a loud snap, the shade flew up clear to the top of the window, dragging Stuart along with it and rolling him up inside so that he couldn't budge. "Holy mackerel," said Snowbell, who was almost as surprised as Stuart Little. "I guess that will teach him to show off his muscles." "Help! Let me out," cried Stuart, who was frightened and bruised inside the rolled-up shade. And who could hardly breathe. But his voice was so weak that nobody heard. Snowbell just chuckled. He was not fond of Stuart, and it didn't bother him at all that Stuart was wrapped up in the window shade, crying and hurt and unable to get out. Instead of running upstairs and telling Mr. and Mrs. Little about the accident, Snowbell did a very curious thing. He glanced around to see if anybody was looking, and then he leapt softly to the windowsill and picked up Stuart's hat and carried his cane and put them in the pantry and laid them down at the entrance to the mouse hole. When Mrs. Little came down and later and found them there, she gave a shrill scream which brought everybody on the run. "What's happened?" she cried. "What has?" asked her husband. "Stuart is down the mouse hole." "Oh no."